Destroy us.
The silent
Shut up.
The silent majority
Is no longer
there too. And now look at Maui, a place to go. A great place to be a tourist or spend time at all the beaches. They could do the exact same thing and rebuild Lahaina. So, but they don't. They don't. They got money for every other country. I mean, maybe if Lahaina bought weapons from the defense contractors that our Congress members have stock in, maybe if the people of Lahaina donated millions of dollars to political campaigns, then maybe they could get some of that relief. But they don't, so sorry.
So what made you decide to start a podcast? Obviously, everybody and their mother has a podcast. Yours is genuinely
Obi-Wan, the last hope of the Jedi, trains for the battle with Luke Skywalker for the diabolical New World Order. Emerging from the darkest depths of Exegol, transgender Sith agents have taken over the Galactic Command Center and are forcing young Jedis to take hormonal therapy and surgical sex changes to let their hatred flow through them, while simultaneously flooding the Republic with the galaxy's most dangerous villain. Meanwhile, Supreme Leader Kamala Harris rages in search of the coconut tree, determined to find where she fell out of. Goes on now. That was just made by the crew. Did you guys do that in an hour? Wow. I don't know how they did it, but they got it done. You gotta understand, I'm a bit of a tyrant at times around here. I'll be honest. I don't like unknowns coming in and out of breaks. Sometimes you may have seen that while I'm on the air. So that was, I will give the crew, they took a big risk. My head could have exploded with that unknown, but that was good. So big ups to the crew on that. That was solid. That was fun. I was like, whoa, hold on. What are you pulling on me now? Obi-Wan. Help me, Obi-Wan. Oh, come on. Obi-Wan, is that you? I'm blinded, Joby. It must be you. Take a shower, baby. So big ups to the crew. They love Obi-Wan, though. Big fans of Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan Kamala. So this is why it's so important for you to shop at InfoWarsStore.com. I'm telling you, the crew has done a great job all week. Yesterday with the Chariots of Fire. Today with the Obi-Wan. Shop at InfoWarsStore.com. That's how we're able to have such a great crew here. Big ups to the crew. InfoWarsStore.com. We're powered by BrainForce Plus, BrainForce Ultra, TurboForce Plus, Nitric Boost, 40% off, back in stock. All at InfoWarsStore.com. The brain power from Ultimate Fish Oil, 40% off. Totally elite. The ultimate crew here. Support them. Shop at InfoWarsStore.com. All right, here's what we got coming up. I'm going to open up the phone lines. We're going to start taking some calls. We have Revenge of the Sis joining us in the third hour. I've decided I'm going to put off all the college stuff and the videos and the craziness. We'll cover that with them. But I'm going to open up the phone lines now. 877-789-2539. Number at the bottom of the screen, 877-789-2539. And really, anything is fair game. Open line Fridays, as is tradition here in the talk show format. If you want to talk about things we've covered, that's fine. If you want to talk about something else, that's fine too. 877-789-2539. Let's pick up some odds and ends, and then I'll get this other stack off my desk. Jerry Nadler, this was during a Judiciary Committee investigation of George Soros' involvement in the U.S. justice system and politics, and you had that preacher Jerry Nadler in there, and he had to chime in at the very end here. What do you think he said? You know, it probably was the odds-on favorite for the retort to Matt Gaetz laying out George Soros in this hearing. And so go ahead, place your bets. What do you think is the number one option on the table here? Clip 6.
This will be my last, Mr. Chairman. I have an additional unanimous consent request.
Gentleman's recognized.
George Soros prosecutors wage war on law and order at heritage.org.
Without objection.
Philadelphia's Soros-funded district attorney deceived court to get murderer off death row from the Washington Examiner.
Without objection.
George Soros' bad bet on progressive DAs from the Philadelphia Citizen.
Without objection. While we're keeping Mr. Klein waiting, you all been here for a couple hours. If you need a break, just let us know. We can certainly give you a chance for a break.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I just want to say that with all the anti-Semitism we're seeing the anti-Semitism of using George Soros again. It's disgusting.
Point of privilege. Mr. Ranking Member, not every criticism of George Soros is anti-Semitic. The criticisms deal with public policy and the matters of rising crime with DAs. I don't know anything about Mr. Soros' faith. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.
Now, the crew points this out. I wasn't going to mention it, but I'm glad they did point it out because they're right. It's definitely worth mentioning here. Before Nadler somehow gets the energy for that, that's like a Kamehameha wave for him, somehow is able to manage this energy. Before he makes the statement, he has his little handler go over and whisper in his ear to call it anti-Semitic. Clearly, that's what happened. We're zooming in on this now. There it is. There it is. Hey, you should call that anti-Semitic. So there's Nadler's handler. And then Nadler's like, ooh, yeah, okay. I'll drum up all the energy in my tiny little body and do so. So there's the handler. Now go ahead.
Let us know. We can certainly give you a chance for a break.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I just want to say that with all the anti-Semitism we're seeing the anti-Semitism of using George Soros again. It's disgusting.
Point of privilege. Mr. Ranking Member, not every criticism of George Soros is anti-Semitic.
I love it. Let me point out something else here, too. Okay, Joe Biden, man, the Democrats have a real problem on their hands here with these protesters now. Look, if for just raw political reasons, I love to see it. For the sake of our country, we're headed for a major conflict. But when Joe Biden was asked, because I didn't emphasize this yesterday, when Joe Biden was asked, have the protests changed your stance or your opinion on the policy of funding Israel? And he said no. He wasn't supposed to say no, folks. He wasn't supposed to answer that. He wasn't supposed to answer any questions. He was supposed to read that teleprompter and in 3 minutes get the hell out of that room. And he said no. Do you realize how potentially devastating that is? They need those college votes. They need those far-left votes. They need those anti-Israel votes. But now but see, they've been using that anti-Semitic attack on their political opposition that they can't help themselves. They need it. And now that you have, if any true anti-Semitism exists, it's in the far left. Criticizing Israel or Israel's military or Israel's political leadership is obviously not anti-Semitic. But if there is any anti-Semitism, it's in these far-left protesters. And they hate everybody. So, put whatever group you want out there, they hate it. So it's the Jews today, it's white people tomorrow, who knows? Whatever it is, it's Paw Patrol. Yes, they literally protest Paw Patrol. A cartoon show for kids. Hate police, whatever it is. They hate Christians, whatever it is. Whatever you put in front of them to hate, it's their 5 minutes hate. So they'll hate Jews, they'll hate white people. They'll hate Paw Patrol. Do they hate Trump? I'm not sure. That one's still, I guess, jury's still out on that one. But so they can't help themselves. Oh, we can't let them know about how George Soros funds all of this, funds our cultural revolution, funds our revolution take over the Justice Department, So let's say that you're an anti-Semite if you talk about George Soros. Meanwhile, it's the far left out in the streets that are the anti-Semites, and they need their votes. So, I mean, and they know it. But hey, you know what? I think here's how they're going to make up for it. They're going to try to make up for it with the weed stuff. And I've been saying this for years, but whatever. It's fine. I never expected Republicans to go with this. DEA agrees to reschedule marijuana under federal law, an historic move following Biden-directed health agency's recommendation. And so they're going to try to get a big weed vote. Is what they're going to try to do. I'm not saying it's going to be successful, but that's what this is. They're going to try to get the weed vote. Kamala Harris, who locks people up for weed. Kamala Harris, who says she smoked weed listening to Snoop Dogg before Snoop Dogg ever even made an album. But that's what this is. Maybe there'll be some single-issue weed voters that we can get out to vote. So really the Republicans probably should have done this, but it's fine, they won't. So I don't know if it's even going to move the needle. Maybe that 0.01% of the community that's trans, maybe they'll go for that vote. Honey Mahogany, if that is her real name, fake woman. Fake woman Honey Mahogany tapped to lead San Francisco's Office of Transgender Initiatives. Yes. It's a very important office, You know that's a very important office, the Transgender Office of Initiatives. And you know how much she's making? Wait till you hear this one. How much do you think she's making? Being reported she's making $200,000 a year. What's her qualifications? She's a man. She's a man, baby. And now in Texas, where child genital mutilation is illegal, the local Austin Democrats are trying to make Democrat-run Austin a sanctuary city for child mutilation, so you can come here and chop off your kids' balls. And, I've got this video. This is a transgender individual who feels she was taking advantage of the system. And maybe we should play this first before I show you this other breaking news that we already knew was going on. So here's a trans person that's basically saying, I was deceived, I was taken advantage of. You should not allow this in Austin or people will end up like me. I have regrets. So here's a trans individual who feels that I'm not trying to be rude. I really don't know. That's the problem here. The girl is a boy and he's like, look what I've done to myself. You don't even know what I am anymore. All because I was deceived when I was a kid going through some stuff. So speaking out against this bill is a trans individual or a former trans individual explaining why this bill should not go down.
My name is Eber Dixon. I live here in Austin's 3rd District, and I experienced extreme gender dysphoria from a young age, leading to me coming out as transgender at 13. I began begging for hormone blockers and testosterone, constantly slept and sometimes showered in unsafe chest binders, started self-harming and cutting body parts that made me look feminine, all before I started seeing a gender therapist as a mid-teen who helped move my family to accept my identity using the phrase, "Do you want a dead daughter or living son?" After a routine fight and breakdown, I was finally allowed to start cross-sex hormones just after turning 17. One visit later, I rode the high of gender euphoria, finally getting to further the transition I had been working all of my life for. Months into starting T, I was diagnosed with a cardiovascular intolerance, having constant issues with heart regulation and passing out. I continued taking the testosterone, causing constant mood swings and later excruciating joint pain. Still, I believe these drugs were saving my life despite so clearly disabling it. A stray thought ultimately asking, why am I so distressed in myself and how people perceive me, is what began to unravel my world at 19. I am now 21, still unpacking the trauma that made me want to cut off body parts, dealing with complications of steroid use like vaginal atrophy, extreme joint pain, and discomfort from permanently changing my sex characteristics, all for how I identified and was affirmed in my trauma from a child.
And vitamin mineral fusion.
Enriched. Completely. What happened? Oh, the extra. And
I'm sorry to give people the bad news, folks. It's all over.
San Francisco Tower, Blue Angels tree at runway 28 right, ready for departure. Straight out departure.
All 4 hours tonight, my Sunday night show, 4 to 6, Sunday Night Live. Right to declared in 1992 by George Herbert Walker Bush in the LA riots that they're going to say it's a constitutional crisis and that the president cannot do that, and they're already trying to strip the president of military control domestically, which is a coup itself legislatively, just like the anti-free speech bill that's passed the House and passed the Senate, and just like everything else they've been doing. So the tyrants are in trouble. They're making their move. We're going to lay it all out tonight. And then the most insane Bill Gates news, and there's a lot of insane Bill Gates news. This is the most insane I've ever seen. Wait until you see this. Big broadcast tonight. Thanks for tuning in. Please share the word. It is Sunday, May 5th, 2024. I'm your host, Alex Jones. The great Jason Geyser is going to host all 4 hours tonight, my Sunday night show, 4 to 6, Sunday Night Live, that he hosts 6 to 8 p.m. But I called him this afternoon and I said, the news is too hardcore, even though it's my 7-year-old daughter's birthday today, and the birthday party really starts about 6 o'clock. I'm going to do at least the first hour because this is just too important for our future and all of our futures. So my wife understands that. But that's how serious this news is, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. If you're a new listener, I know people tune in constantly, every millisecond, new listeners. You're asking, what's the Alex Jones show all about? Why do people attack it so much? Why do people talk about how good it is so much? It's because we've made a lot of predictions that become true, and I've done a lot of historical research, and I'm immersed in this information. You are not going to need now to really even tune into the Alex Jones show to know what's going on, because you're going to experience it. You're already experiencing it. The good news is, again, I was visiting a family member in the hospital yesterday. Massive numbers of doctors and nurses were listeners, shook my hand, middle of liberal Austin. And then I took my wife to dinner. My parents were keeping my youngest daughter, my middle daughter was taking care of her too. And I went to a little Italian place, and the owner, the chef, there's probably only 20 people in there, and about 15 of the 20 people eating all came over and shook my hand. And then when I walked out on the street to walk to the car garage, I shook hands with every group that I walked past. Again, I don't give you that report to say, oh, I'm so famous, I'm so cool. It means the buzz for freedom's out there. And so, as negative as all this news is, I'm a bellwether because I'm well known, and I get almost no hate. It happens like every 6 months now, and I go all over the place, and I get nothing but love at levels 10 times what it's ever been. I mean, usually I'm in a restaurant, and it's a small restaurant, nobody comes over, and it's a big restaurant, 4 or 5 people come over. That's fine. That's great. Love shaking their hand, taking pictures. Now it's nonstop. Tree store, you name it. People stop their cars in the parking lot, get out and shake my hand. Black, white, old, young. It's beautiful. And again, I state that because if there is a civil war in this country, or civil unrest, they bill a civil war, trying to get the American people to fight each other. All of you that are listeners have to just go out on the street and speak out about unity and coming together and explaining that it's the globalists, the central banks, the New World Order that are doing all this. And their only hope is if they can divide and conquer us. Because it's great to be private. And I say this all the time, it's so important. Because you have anonymity and you have privacy. It's not fun being very famous, at least in my book. I mean, it's something you don't like losing your privacy. But I get the great fringe benefit or side effect of really getting to test the temperature of the public. And it's not just Texas, it's California, it's New York, it's Florida, it's everywhere I go. I'm mobbed. And that shows you that people are really, really awake. And everybody I talk to says their friends and family are waking up. And I think you're experiencing the Great Awakening as well. The reason I started the show with that story is, or those statements is, that's the good news, but it's also the bad news, because the power structure, the corrupt mega banks and their big global Ponzi scheme that's coming to an end, they know they're in trouble. They know the world is rejecting them. And so they are going to pull out all the stops to try to create so much smoke and so much fire, literal and figurative, that they don't all go to prison during a global political realignment that's about to happen. Instead, we all fight with each other, and they're able to bring in their global central bank currency that tracks and traces and controls everything you do. Tracker switches, kill switches in all the new cars globally. Total control, 15-minute cities. Germany banning driving cars on the weekend. I mean, that's all coming here, 15-minute cities. But how are they going to get there? Well, when they say the main national security directive since June of 2020 is white supremacy, and that white supremacy is an epidemic, which is like saying unicorns dancing in the moonlight is an epidemic. It's not happening. There's certainly not white supremacy violence going on out there. It's very rare. And they're still pushing it in Hollywood and in the news and the corporate media and the universities everywhere. And that's because the false flags are in the final ingredients for the civil unrest that will be billed as a civil war, so the media can say who the parties are. Israel versus Islam, Islam versus Israel, blacks versus the police, whites versus blacks, vice versa. While the borders dissolve, while the country's currency is destroyed, while all this incredible war expands across the planet. So it's very critical, beyond critical, to understand that we know what the globalists have done before. We know the type of terror attacks they've staged, provocateur before. And so you just have to know, and again, most of you don't need me to tell you this, but I want it to be urgent. I want it to be imminent in your mind that we are 183 days out from the election. 6 months, right now, today. And all hell, if you think all hell has broken loose, I'm telling everybody, you need to get right with God, you need to get right with your family, you need to get right with your neighbors, and you need to get serious. And I've told the crew this, and they're already very serious. I've told my family this, and they're already very serious. This is a whole new ball game we're entering for all the marbles right now. And even people like Dick Van Dyke, who's been very non-political, reportedly people that know him like the most classy guy ever in Hollywood, has come out and said they're trying to start a civil war in America, and we shouldn't be manipulated. And what's happening to Trump is wrong. Now, when I came out 6 months ago and I said, listen, I had some family buy me tickets, so they know I never go out, to George Strait, Willie Nelson. And I know Willie well. He came to one of my movie showings decades ago, 15 years ago. We got to be friends and used to hang out with him a lot back when I didn't have time for such things, play chess with him, you name it. But Willie's an old-fashioned liberal. He means well, but he's in control of the Democratic Party. Somebody like George Strait, I know is super hardcore conservative. I know the ace of the hole to slide over to the globalist. And I got in his face in person and in his face on air and really made him look at the evidence. And Joe's not a guy you can push around, believe me. And he said, my God, you're actually right. I went overboard getting him even to look, but it's like They Live, where they're in that big fight, trying to make his friend put the sunglasses on so he can see it. Listen, put these sunglasses on and see the truth, the metaphor for coming out of Plato's cave or starting concrete. And it's because I know Joe, because Joe's already so political, that I did that with, and again, I'm only singling out George Strait because he's one of the biggest, and he's as big as Elvis around the world. He's a living legend. I love George Strait. And I'm not saying this is about George Strait, I'm just using him as an example. Hey, George Strait, you know we're going to lose everything if everybody like you that's super prominent and a patriot, he's not a closet patriot. He raises money for veterans and promotes the family and God and country. He's a great guy. But if people like George Strait don't start going public now like Dick Van Dyke just did, because Dick Van Dyke knows it's about to be the end of the country. All right? If you don't have every person that's a populist, a conservative, a Christian, a conservative Catholic, we outnumber the bad guys 10 to 1. The bad guys are a bunch of scum, and their followers are idiots who can't find their ass in both hands. So, all I'm saying is I can't do this alone, and my audience of activists supporting us and people supporting Trump can't do this alone. And this idea that Trump's invincible is not true. This idea that I'm always going to be here. If it wasn't for you, I'd already be off the air. This is the fight of the millennia. I mean, this is not the fight of the century, folks. This is everything. And we are about to go into a slippery slope that we're already on, but I mean over the edge of it, that is unspeakable. Giant terror attacks being blamed on populists and right-wingers. Terror attacks being blamed on Trump supporters. The left burning down cities. If you think the summer in 2020 was bad, it will look tame in comparison. And the same thing is already starting in Europe. It's already starting in Australia. If you think the globalists with COVID lockdowns and poison shots and all of that was bad, as I said at the start of the show, this is the big one. And when you're under tyranny and you're under attack, it feels kind of dirty. You would say, oh man, America's on its last legs, and tell people, hey, we're in danger. But when you are in danger, it's the truth. Again, if a forest fire is coming to the town because the wind changes and it's going 60 miles an hour, and you see your neighbors with their lights off, their cars are there, and the flames are a quarter mile away, and the fire department, is at your door, and saying, get out, and you get in your car to drive off, and you still see the neighbors with their lights off, you're going to go bang on the door and say, get the hell out of here. That's not crying wolf to run around really concerned and have urgency to have that happening. Instead of sitting on the deck of the Titanic playing poker, Chase Geiser analogy Friday, as the whole ship sinks. I mean, this is going on, okay? There's no doubt. It's not like, it's what I said 3.5 years ago when Biden stole the election. I said, before the next election, before the next general election, they're going to try to create civil unrest and use that as an excuse for martial law, and then it will basically never end. I mean, emergency never ends. And I told you the COVID lockdowns were training wheels for future permanent lockdowns under the guise of civil unrest and climate change, which is now mainstream news. I played clips last week of central bankers at the World Economic Forum just this last week saying COVID was training wheels for the future lockdowns and controls we're going to have in a cashless society. They're saying the cashless society will be to lock you up and only let you travel when they say, and surveil everything you do. So it's not coming, my friends, it's here. And I've been on the air 30 years, and I don't normally just sit here for 20 minutes saying, it's here, it's here, it's here. This is the big one. Nobody ever tuned in heard me talk like this, have you? I knew they had lots of projects, false flags, and crises. I did say they're going to release viruses and have lockdowns and then give us a poison shot. It'll break down society, and I'm going to cover that in a moment. And I've said that was imminent, but now it's the next level of escalation, and then some. And then things accelerate in a time period like this. Lenin said, evil man, but he was smart, a genius. He said there are weeks where more happens than happened in decades. So there are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks when more happens than happened in decades. Quote the exact Lenin quote about there are weeks when more happens. I think I'm butchering it, but I got the gist of it.
So says when you go to
that's all I'm trying to say
select
is
airports page,
my urgency, my
go in the
concern,
search
my
field,
intellectual understanding, my
and you
spiritual
enter the
understanding, my
latitude and
gut level,
longitude.
my instincts are just, I mean, I have got like a very intense feeling in my chest. There are decades when nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades happen.
Yeah, it says when you go to
it's
the
not
select
like a
airports
weight
page
in my
in the
chest. It's
search
not like a
field,
weight on me. It's
where
an
you enter
energy. It's a force of resistance to tyranny. It's a power. And I only get like this when I can see around corners. Everybody can if you just dial into the discernment God gave you. I can see around corners. I can see over hills. I can see in the dark. And my cells are just ready to fight. And that I'm in danger. And so it makes me feel very strong. It makes me have a lot of energy. It makes me very serious. Because at a spiritual level, my body is being told by my spirit, get ready, on guard. In French, fencing, it just means on guard in English. Prepare yourself, get ready. It's on guard in French when they're fencing and they put their visor down and say, on guard. And I'm telling you all, on guard, on guard. Brace for impact. And just let that sink in a little bit, folks, and just dial into your own gut level instincts, not just your intellectual understanding that sees this. Just sit back for a minute and think, how much danger are we in? Have you ever felt this much danger? And the answer is nothing near it. Nothing close. So here's what we're going to cover when we come back. When I saw this yesterday morning, and I posted on X,
take out the degrees,
and then subsequently everybody else sent it to me as well.
Just do the decimals.
Joe Rogan sent it to me, and I said, I hope you're covering this in your next podcast. And Bill Gates comes out and he says, yeah, we're just testing on the public a whole bunch of stuff with the mRNA shots. And
did you do it? When you enter it, like delete the little degree sign in north. Yeah, just delete the letter in the little thing.
There's a lot of different things we put in different batches just to see what it's going to do. And we're just randomly testing on the public. I'm going to play the clip coming up. And he says, yeah, you know, we're just injecting people with self-replicating nanotech. Now, that's what it is. By the way, get me the clip of Gates also saying, that's an old clip, this is a new clip. We just shoot kids right in the veins with experimental shots. Remember that? We don't even know what it's going to do. We just shoot it right in. He said this crap before, but this time, a couple days ago, he did it on television. He came out in 2 different interviews. He says, yeah, well, you're all guinea pigs, and we're going to figure out how this works the next 5 years. Just injecting you with it. And then he goes, also, you know, we're going to ban all your meat, too. We're almost ready to do that. How do you think they're going to do that? When they inject the cows and the pigs, starting with pigs, with the mRNA self-replicating nanotech, everybody's going to figure out real quick you can't eat that, or you get the equivalent of prion disease. And I've got a bunch of mainline studies on it. Dr. Peter McCullough's exposing it. Dr. Joseph Mercola's exposing it. But we got Bill Gates that's going, yeah, we inject you with the self-replicating nanotech. Graphene oxide. I mean, they inject people, they take their blood out, living and dead, and it's just like, it's like microchips. Because it's what it builds. You're like, well, they'd never get away with that. That's crazy. This week, in fact, tomorrow, I'm getting all the SPARS documents together. The Pentagon, John Hopkins, UN report. And they say, and it's really set the year 2020 to 2024. But they say 2025, 2028, and it's even the same tweets they later put out, just slightly changed. And they say about 2 years into the rollout of the experimental shots, this came out 2 years before they released the virus in 2000, early 2019, late 2019. They say they have a rollout plan. You're going to find out they've soft killed you, and then they're going to use that for the civil unrest as well. And it's not like I'm just now saying that. We shot that report. Guys, pull up, it's got like 5 million views. It's on Band-On Video. It's a special report, SPARS, 2025, 2028. A 3-hour special we did, commercial free. And I explained how this is a battle plan, so they can walk around with their operational manual, with the think tanks and the top military and the foreign governments, and all have their real battle plan, but if they get caught with it, it's like, oh no, this is just a drill. A war game, this isn't actually the battle plan, but it follows the battle plan in live time. They tweaked and changed a few things, but it's absolutely staggering. So if you go to band.video, yeah, there it is. Emergency Saturday broadcast, World Shocked by SPARS 2025-2028 document. And that one's got like 4 million views. There's another variant of it, it's like 2 million. So it's got over 5 million. But the point is that we're going to repost that on X tomorrow, and I'm going to explain all this to you. But if you haven't watched the almost 3-hour, let's click on, I'm going from memory how long it is. You might want to go watch that again. In fact, I'm going to have it reposted under the live show feed at Infowars.com. How long is it? Oh, that's why I said there's 5 million views, because there's a 3-hour version and a 90-minute version. This is the shorter one. That's why. Yeah, there's a 3-hour version too. So that's what we're talking about. All right. We may back them down. We've got a very good chance. That's the most important thing. If there's a big awakening, which is already happening, but we really get all those that are awakened to really get loud about this and explain what they're about to do again, but on a bigger scale, because they've already got the bird flu all hyped up, and that's going to high gear, then we can mitigate this and back them down. But if they think they're going to catch us with our pants down, flat-footed, they're going to go all the way. And we can't just quit our jobs and not live and think it's the end of the world here. No, we're just going through a very dangerous period. You've got to continue to speak out, you continue to pray, We need your support. I'm taking on the New World Order. President Trump needs your support as well. We have incredible products you already need. Please go to drjonesnaturals.com. That's my dad's company. He's our sponsor. And the deep state's targeted him as well. And so it's a critical place to support. But that's only part of the equation. These are amazing products. The Nano Silver, fluoride-free toothpaste, Super Blue, and others. The Rocket Rest Natural Sleep Aid that's so strong and works so great, so good for your whole body. Get that deep restful sleep. Rocket Rest at drjonesnaturals.com. That's just drjonesnaturals.com. And there's also the Next Level Foundational Energy that you will find at drjonesnaturals.com. Next Level Foundational Energy. It'll take me an hour to explain it, but it's beyond game-changing. It's Next Level Foundational Energy at drjonesnaturals.com. And there's a lot of other great products there on the site as well. Top Brain, you name it. Peruse the site, check it out. Please go there. If you want to support the broadcast, plus get great products, this is a time for action. drjonesnaturals.com. And there's also a lot of amazing products at InfoWarsStore.com as well that I'll tell you about before this hour ends. We're going to come back, and I'm going to get into this Bill Gates information straight ahead, and then I'm going to talk about how to stop them being able to roll out their next phase of power grab. Please stay with us. All right, if you're an occasional listener or a new listener, you probably weren't tuned in 4+ years ago when they started the COVID attack. We showed a lot of different government and NGO documents from the CIA, Republic, and from the Carnegie Endowment and the Rockefeller Foundation and Johns Hopkins and the Pentagon. Like the SPARS Pandemic War Game Plan 2025-2028 that is set in the year 2020 to 2024. Now, in the document that mirrors those years, they just, it really set 2020 to 2024. In the document, as I just said earlier, I've done big presentations on this. I've posted them back on Infowars.com. From our site, band.video. Tomorrow I'm going to post it on X at Real Alex Jones. With this report under it, we're doing live tonight. In context, people know what to look at. And it says, when the public finds out that we've erased their immune systems and caused blood clots and everything they did, okay. So Obama war-gamed all this in 2013, 14, 15. He funded the University of Texas, the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and a bunch of others to test this exact mRNA system for a COVID-type virus on rats. And so they knew what it did to the rats. Cut their life expectancy at about half, killed about half of them in just the first 6 months. But again, rats live a lot less than us, but they have a similar physiology, so a rat dying in 6 months is like a human dying in 10 years. So they stunningly, and General Flynn saw our analysis that was spot on, put their evil plan into a war game, so again, they could have their war game and understand their war game and pass it out to their people, but have plausible deniability. Hey, what do you got a war game to cook up a synthetic virus, release it, scare the public, and give them a shot 100 times worse than the virus, and then use that to start collapsing society and depopulating. Well, you have it in the war game. And in the war game, by the third and fourth year, 2023, 2024, they even predict good scientists, good medical systems would come out and expose it. So then they would start having politicians and talk show hosts, it says, say that they were just mistaken and it was a mistake and that there'd be some fines and people have to step down and the heads of bureaucracies would step down, which you've seen them do. And they would just have a war plan to even normalize that, well, it wasn't on purpose. So people ask, how do I know what's going to happen next? They've got these war games. Like in 2011, Lockstep, put out by the Rockefeller Foundation, association with Johns Hopkins and the Pentagon and the UN, and they talk about use a virus out of China, a respiratory virus, scare people, have lockdowns, make them wear masks to create more fear. Then they'll accept the new way of life, being locked down, being controlled by their smartphones to get them ready for the cashless society. And they could then build emergency centers all over the world for the next big crisis where they can lock up their political opposition, which they've now set up. And you're sitting there reading this big giant report. I mean, just the report synopsis is what, 50-something pages long, memory serves. But throughout are links to all these other reports and all these other battle plans, and it's all there, the toolbox of how to do this, like a recipe. And so we have them. Now, it came out by February 2020 in the news. Major universities around the world scanned the SARS COVID virus and said it's 5 viruses put together, it's been edited, and it's got the spike protein of HIV, one of the biggest spike proteins ever discovered, super toxic itself, that breaks through the cell membrane, and it's self-replicating. And then their answer with the so-called vaccine, which is gene therapy, will be have your body produce more of the spike protein as if it's a harmless thing, so your body recognizes it and beats the whole virus. Well, the whole thing is the spike protein. All right? So by early 2000, I had top scientists, researchers on, and they said, you're going to get false HIV positives with this, which later came out. Now HIV is at record levels. You're going to get turbo cancers, blood clots, myocarditis, strokes. Now, mainstream news, FDA studies, okay, it's true. Just like the SPARS document said, by year 3 and 4 it would come out. And now it's come out. They had it all working. They knew what the response would be. They had it all there. Smart criminals. But when you read into the virus, the closest thing it is in nature is spongiform encephalopathy, or that's what prion crystals, self-replicating protein crystals that you get when you feed herbivores meat, rotten meat. If you feed herbivores rotten meat, you're not supposed to feed cows meat or sheep. It then passes through the barrier of their stomach and the blood-brain barrier because they're not designed to eat meat, rotten meat. A buzzard's designed to eat rotten meat, and that's it. And then it gets into your brain and starts growing, and your other organs and kills you. And the key here is it's self-replicating. Now, we've been saying that for almost 4 years, or longer than 4 years. And I got a bunch of studies just out now I'll show you. Prestigious scientists and doctors talking about it. This is a fact. And 80% of women that have the mRNA shot in the first 2 trimesters have a miscarriage. And that's now mainstream news everywhere. We told you about it 4 years ago, or 3 years ago when it first rolled out. It's 2.5 when the first shot started. Yeah, 3. So I'm building up the Bill Gates thing here in a moment. Let's get this break. Bill Gates then goes on USA Today, TV, their TV division, and just laughs and says, yeah, we're just going to figure out and get the kinks out of mRNA in the next 5 years. We're just going to give everybody it and play around with it and see what it does. So, and this is the first time he said stuff like this, but he says it more intensely here. So overhead shot, please, before I go to these clips. This is an article from earlier this week. Could COVID shots trigger avalanches of a contagious form of dementia? And then it links to a big, giant, peer-reviewed study that it is self-replicating. Even if you don't take the shot, you can get it from shedding. It's really bad if you take the shot, and it gets to your body, it self-replicates, and it basically gives you spongiform encephalopathy, dementia, Alzheimer's, whatever you want to call it. I've got the studies right here. mRNA vaccines can unleash epidemic of prion brain diseases. There's another one. Moderna posts 1.2 million losses. Demand for COVID jab collapses. Promises investors next generation vaccine to tackle new strains. Chris Cuomo now says he's sick from the Moderna shot. That's the strongest one. Remember they said in the SPARS document they would do that. Here's Bill Gates. Bill Gates openly discussing self-assembling nanotechnology and mRNA. A nice word for protein prion. That's what spike protein is. It's a protein prion. Bill Gates, for every disease that we don't have vaccines, we'll try mRNA. We just need to mess around with the public. There's a lot of lipid nanoparticles and some are very self-assembling. It means they grow in your body. Like the prions that cause spongiform encephalopathy or mad cow. We'll be able to build factories worldwide that can make $2 vaccines with even less lead time. Then we've got him saying that he's going to make you eat GMO meat, fake meat. And then since I mentioned it, let me go ahead and show you a couple of big studies that are out. Remember this meme from years ago? Stop saying you did your research before you got the injection. You are the research. And boy, did all the soy boys and liberals take it. They love it. But here's some of the studies. I'll show you a few hundreds. Dr. Peter McCullough links to this one. Spike protein linked to Alzheimer's acceleration. And that's in a major prestigious medical journal. Dr. Peter McCullough, messenger mRNA is transferring from vaccinated to unvaccinated, shedding. That's from 2 years ago. Here's some of the studies. Current state of knowledge on the excretion of mRNA and spike produced by the anti-COVID-19 mRNA vaccine. Possible contamination of the entourage of those vaccinated by the products. That's a big prestigious medical report. Go read that for yourself. And there's literally thousands of these. Prominent Japanese medical professor warns against taking self-replicating jab this fall or winter. Watch that. I mean that's like a 10-second search. Let's pull up a few of them there. Now, you're like, okay, well, that's you saying that, or that's the study saying it. Well, here's Dr. Bill Gates, who isn't a doctor, who runs the biggest depopulation foundation in the world, who says there's too many people, but he really loves you and really wants you to take the shot that attacks your fertility, your longevity. World population is now declining for the first time since the Black Plague. His life expectancy is declining massively. But before we play the new clip of him on USA Today, let's play an older one where he just nonchalantly talks about, you just shoot it right in the arms of these kids. Have no idea what it's going to do. Here he is.
Some of them have side effects. Do we need safety testing? I mean, and we're taking things that are, genetically modified organisms, and we're injecting them in little kids' arms. We just shoot them right into the vein. So, yeah, I think maybe we should have a safety system where we, do trials and test things out. The idea, though, that you would take a technique that promises to solve nutrition problems, solves...
Now, of course, that's doublespeak. I've got a clip coming up where he goes, this is a new clip, he says, oh, yeah, we've got lab-grown meat, and we're going to roll it out. And he goes, because it's pork, it's beef. No, it's not. They just approved, with no studies, a pink soybean, not green, that is pig cells. You're like, they can't do that? Yeah, they do. You can cook it up, reportedly smells like bacon. God knows what that'll do, because they Trojan horse crap into all of this. But you heard him. We have no idea what it's going to do. We just shoot it right in the kids' veins. And that's our safety study, is we just randomly test it. Now, here's a shorter clip of him from USA Today, where they put a clip of some of the scientists and just type in self-assembling nanoparticles into X. Or just even type it into Google. You got to go 20 pages deep to find the studies as they try to block it, because they're at war with humanity. But this is all admitted, but it's just next level. You have Bill Gates trying to hide it in plain view and normalize it. So the first is a short clip, then a clip of a electron microscope of the self-assembling nanoparticles or spike proteins or bad cow prions. And then we'll go actually to a larger clip from the USA Today, and the full thing is up on Infowars.com. So she'll play the shorter clip, and then just play the full clip back to back with it. Here is the most wild Bill Gates admission ever. Because I already know this is all true. You can go back 4 years ago, we're like, it's going to be nanotech, self-assembling, because we'd seen the studies they'd already done on rats. By the way, it doesn't help the rats. Oh, but don't worry, cancer's exploding. They've got a new mRNA vaccine coming out that will be promising to help. Because yes, they can give you shots of mRNA that for most people will turn off what they've already done to you. A captive audience. Yeah, a fully weaponized medical system against humanity. Here's the clips back to back.
Making the mRNA is really easy and really cheap, and that's the magic of this thing. But there's no doubt in the next 5 years, we can, we just need to mess around. There's a lot of lipid nanoparticles, and some are very self-assembly. And some are very self-assembly.
And some are very self-assembly.
This is nano-construction. I don't even begin to understand how far ahead of where we thought our technology was.
Making the mRNA is really easy and really cheap, and that's the magic of this thing. But there's no doubt in the next 5 years, we can, we just need to mess around. There's a lot of lipid nanoparticles, and some are very self-assembling. There's no inherent reason it's not thermostable, it's not cheap, and it's not scalable. And so, as over the 5 years, we fix that part of it, mature it, which is very typical, we'll be able to build factories worldwide that can make $2 vaccines with even less lead time than we've had to have here during this pandemic. And we'll use those, as you suggest. For every disease that we don't have vaccines, we will try mRNA. In fact, for HIV, we have multiple ways. One that's more of a B-cell approach, one that's more of a T-cell approach. For malaria, we have multiple ideas. For TB, we have multiple ideas. And so to fill in the missing vaccines, we'll make a lot of our bets of the Gates Foundation and others who care about global health will be mRNA focused.
So, we're going to play around with the public like they did. Remember, safe and effective, it's all been tested. Yeah, it was tested on rats and it killed most of them. And, we're up here talking about New England Medical Journal, 83% of the women in the first 2 trimesters that took the Pfizer Moderna shot had miscarriages. And then more studies came out 2 weeks ago, prestigious. And like you say that, it doesn't even sound real, does it? Like, what, 80? 80% is the number they're on now. I mean, they're killing us, ladies and gentlemen, and they think it's funny. They tried to censor us. They tried to block us. They failed. The truth is out there now. But they even knew in their war game that would happen too. But it blew up bigger than they thought. They've now admitted that. So they predicted big pushback, but maybe a third of what they expected. It's been 3 times that. So his wife's left him. He looks like he's aged 20 years last year. It looks like one of his arms is paralyzed. I saw him at the World Economic Forum last week speaking, and it looks like he's 90 years old now. So Bill Gates is circling the toilet bowl. His evil wife has left him. But he's just the front man for this. But boy, is he a little evil elf, a little demonic leprechaun. I mean, he's just out there in your face pushing all this. And God help us. Dr. Robert Malone was on the show Friday or Thursday, and he's the inventor of mRNA 30 years ago. And they tested it on rats and mice and guinea pigs, and it could cure cancer sometimes, and with a certain percentage, they could do incredible stuff. Problem is, a good percentage would just liquefy their organs, the brain, the liver, and it varied person to person. They're like, so he's been saying for 15 years, and he has the patents on it. He's a very wealthy guy because of it. But he's like, hey, it's like Oppenheimer, making the atomic bomb. He's like, you better watch out with this a little bit here, this is pretty dangerous. But let's go ahead now and play Bill Gates. Again, this is from this last week. He's doing a speaking tour right now. Here he is talking about synthetic lab-grown meat, which is full of all sorts of viruses and bacteria, and it's just horrible. And notice he calls it, and it's pork, it's beef. No, it's not. And how great it tastes and how wonderful it is. And you're like, well, we'll never eat that. They're forcing it. And they're forcing it on the prisons, and they're forcing it on the schools, and already all over the Western world, bug protein is being put in to the chicken powder and the flour and the batter. And he's involved at every level. And the WF has said the future's not human, that they're taking over. Here's a clip.
In matching the taste or the cost. I know they have new generations coming, so I'm hopeful that'll improve. But as you say, the cell-based approaches, they're not going to have a problem with the taste. Their challenge is very much the cost. But there's some great companies, including one called Prolific, and it looks like we may get there. So sometimes the path is a lot longer, and we underestimated how easy it would be for people like Beyond and Impossible to become mainstream. But they're out there, doing new versions. So I'm still hopeful. I have to say sausage is an area where it seems to be easier for them to create something where I can't tell the difference, or like a chicken sandwich. Ground beef, they are pretty close, particularly because you have salt and sauces on it. The ultimate might be a steak, although there are companies who say that, even that, they'll be able to achieve something. Almost every type of food, milk, cheese, there's interesting work going on. And so if you can get, say, beef or pork to be made this way, amazingly, that would even help with things like deforestation, because there's a whole chain of how those animals get fed. And so agriculture, I keep trying this stuff. There's a yogurt that I think is absolutely fantastic.
I think we're pretty far away on fish. I haven't yet tried a meat substitute for fish that really matches the taste.
Yeah, but for fish, there's this big trend away from ocean-based fishing, the so-called aquaculture. And, that started out as a very environmentally insensitive thing. But now they're really improving what they do with their wastewater, how they control disease. And so it's interesting that we're almost to the point where half of the fish are coming from aquaculture. And at least in Africa, the upside to have a lot more of that is there. So it's not fish substitute, but it's just another way of growing the fish.
By the way, nothing Bill Gates says is true. I can play the clip, a bunch of them, where he says we need to cut trees down. They're carbon, they're bad, and trees aren't good. And saying planting trees is good for the earth is anti-science. Don't believe me, just type in, Bill Gates says planting trees is anti-science. But now he wants to ban all over the world, Sri Lanka and the Netherlands and Ireland, cows and pigs because, they're bad for the environment. They're deforesting, but he says cut the trees down. They're shutting down the farms, the small ones. They're shutting down organics, saying they're bad. Literally, type in London Guardian. Organic farming, the worst for the earth. To make you have factory-made sludge where it's live cells and they grow fake beef and fake pork. It's unbelievable. Yeah, there it is. Planting trees for the environment is complete nonsense. Fortune magazine, folks, you can't make this up. But we gotta ban cows, they're bad for the trees. Eat my lab-grown meat. All right, we're gonna go to break, start the second, third, and fourth hour on the Sunday transmission. Tomorrow, when I host from 11 a.m. Central to 3 p.m., I'm gonna talk about the martial law, the plans for false flags, and how we stop it. Before we go to break, remember, I need your support. You need my support. I want to thank you for your support. Now's the time to take action. Get products you need, build our own economy. They want to shut everybody down. That's their war. So support the people telling the truth and get great products at the same time. Infowarsstore.com. Ultimate fish oil, highest grade fish oil, so good for your whole body, so good for your brain and heart. So incredible. Back in stock, 40% off. Infowarsstore.com. Nitric Boost that cleans out your heart, your cardiovascular. Everybody should be on this. Incredible effects for everybody. It's 40% off, back in stock, InfoWarsStore.com, and so many other great products, again, at InfoWarsStore.com. And then finally, DrJonesNaturals.com. JonesNaturals.com. My dad's company based right here in Central Texas. Incredible supplements, incredible nano silver toothpaste and wound gel and immune twist and swallow, gargle, and rocket rest. Just absolutely amazing natural sleep aid, next level foundational energy, the nano silver with tea tree and iodine super blue toothpaste. It's all at drjonesnaturals.com. And if you want to support us, support that and get the great products, go now to drjonesnaturals.com and to InfoWarsStore.com. You can call InfoWars and order 24 hours a day at 888-253-3139. 888-253-3139. All right, incredible times, but at least we're not being caught flat-footed. We're going to start the second, third, and fourth hour straight ahead. Please stay with us. InfoWars.com, tomorrow's news today. So important. Please remember, ladies and gentlemen, we're listener supported. Your purchases at InfoWarsStore.com allow this powerful, game-changing information on the air, and they're really great products. InfoWarsStore.com. Mineral Fusion sold out, but a little bit more is coming in a few weeks, so that's a bummer. But Nitric Boost cleans out your blood, so good for your heart, your brain, everything.
Into ourselves.
Well, generally speaking, when they're
radicalizing our students, and I would
because God.
And I'm sorry to give people the bad news, folks. It's all over. So the elite spotlights, well then 50 million, 100 million will watch it, and we've got a chance to beat these people because other talk show hosts are really good at talking about what's coming up and building it up. And I mean, I just tend to get to what the biggest thing is right up front. But that said, really what I'm trying to say is I was already planning last Friday when I saw more Bill Gates clips where he was confessing to testing mRNA on the public and using us as mass guinea pigs so the elite can have life extension. And the fact that now the FDA has come out and all these scientists, and even people that work for the system, and said, okay, yeah, the shots didn't work and they're giving you cancer and heart attacks and all the rest of it, blood clots and infertility. But then the last few months, Pfizer has said, hey, don't worry, our stock shouldn't go down, it should go up, which it's going up now again, because cancer is mysteriously exploding at just record rates, never before seen. And, quote, cancer, oncology is the new COVID. Well, it's not the new COVID, it's what the COVID injection does. And the number of young people, children, and young adults I know that have cancer, formerly rare cancers, is staggering. I mean, every certain group I know has young people with cancer and dying of cancer. Just in the last few years, my wife has gone to multiple memorial services for young women she knows. We're talking 30, 35, 40, 45. Who are exercise fanatics. That's how she knows these women. She's big into tennis and used to teach yoga, big into lifting weights and running. And my wife's like an exercise freak, which is great. She looks like a fitness model. And she knows all these fitness model women dying. I mean, these are fitness model women. These are upper middle class healthy women. They're just dying. But then I have all the statistics here in front of me too. And I know all these people that have young children with cancer. So, I mean, there it is. Albert Bourla came out. Not just in the statements by the company last few months, but in interviews. So what I'm really saying is here, I'm going to cover this today, and I'm going to talk about it. But I'm really talking about what should all of our response be to this. Like the frog in the pot, we're just boiling and just accept that this is the new normal and then just go about our business, waiting for the UN treaty to take over our healthcare and our bodies to go through, waiting for the next virus to be released,
Yeah, I don't
waiting
know.
for the next scare. Bird flu's already here. And just to watch Bordela's face in these interviews, I mean, he knows exactly what he's doing. He just looks manifestly evil. He lied to the whole world, lied to the whole public, said it's 99% effective, then 92% effective, then 87, then 82, then 80, then 74, then 70, until, oh, actually it gives you COVID and destroys your immune system and is self-replicating. And Bill Gates is like, yeah, we put self-replicating stuff in you in the shots to see what it'll do. We just got to play around with it. That's a quote. Like you're a lab rat, but you are a lab rat. I'm a lab rat. Then it sheds on everybody. It's prions that grow in your body. That's the same stuff that causes spongiform encephalopathy. So I just can't sit here and take this like this is just one more news story. Because, I mean, I feel like just not doing the show the next few days and then just getting with my researchers and everybody and getting all the research and all the clips and all our predictions and all their admissions, put it all together so people can see the compendium and the continuum and the chronicle of what they're doing leading us up to now. And I would just challenge other filmmakers like I can think of so many that do a great job. Mickey Willis. I bet he could put something together pretty quick that's 10 minutes long that condenses this and explains it all, that we can all then promote. Because it's such an assault on everybody. And it's so cold-blooded, and it's so perfect how they do it, because they create the virus, it creates the fear, they give you the shots of the spike protein that attacks your whole body, attacks your DNA, triggers turbo cancer, destroys your fertility, goes after your cardiovascular system. And then they say, don't worry, next week there's cancer, some of it's natural, everybody gets cancer, everybody gets cancer, everybody gets strokes now, kids get it, it's normal. Don't worry, we've got mRNA, new shots, cancer, and for heart attacks, and for depression.
Do what now?
But Bordela's, man, we're going to make
Or it
hundreds
just
of
goes
billions
up.
of dollars off this, and their stock shoots straight up.
Does that make his name higher?
Like he's a lizard, like there's a breathing bag in his neck.
That's
I'm not
just a
saying he's
quick
literally
way
a
to
lizard.
make it
He's
gain
like
height.
gulping and or like a bullfrog or something. I mean, maybe he is an alien.
Yo, go fly into the fucking,
making troops take it and medical workers take it. Oh, but the,
fucking-
FBI and
the Grove,
senators and
what's it
Congress
called?
people and their staff and a whole bunch of elite agencies, they were all exempt,
The rich people go.
just like the illegal aliens are exempt. I mean, they really are placing
What is it called?
control MI5. They control the FBI.
Yo, when you going back to get more cheesecake dogs?
And it starts exactly when the shots roll out. And some countries did it different, 3, 4, 6 months apart. It starts right when the shots roll in. So in England, it starts in October. That's just the cancer. COVID shots trigger dementia from prion or mad cow disease. I've got the big studies right here for you. If you'd like to see those. Look at this one. Moderna posts 1.2 billion losses. Demand for COVID jab collapses. Promises investors next generation vaccine to tackle new strains, and cancer will be their profit. Chris Cuomo says he's sick from the shot himself. And I've got some studies here to show you. Just to show you yesterday. To the left, it's the face thing. It's the embrace death. There's spike protein linked to Alzheimer's acceleration study. Spike protein in the diseases. So, Jermaine showed all this. Different genetically. Some people are more susceptible to this or that. That's why show 3 years ago, and again, 2 months ago, she said everything is in it. Now they've gotten vials of Pfizer Moderna shot. SV40, Marburg,